I have switched to the Galaxy S25 Ultra, but I just can't commit to it. But why though? Let's go. As far as slab smartphones go, the S25 Ultra is peak. Of course, with new technology on the horizon, like silicon carbon batteries that are starting to hit smartphones now, 1-inch sensors and new camera technology, there's always ways to improve it. But as far as an experience goes, you're not getting much better than this. The big screen on the front, the multiple cameras, this is, as far as slabs go, it. And as exceptional as this is as a phone, there is one thing holding me back: the Fold Special Edition. I've had this for 4 months now. Despite it now not carrying my main SIM card in it, I never go anywhere without it. It sits in my other pocket, ready for action at all times. Of course, that's a very privileged option that I've got, the ability to carry two high-end flagship smartphones from a company, and no one should realistically be carrying two phones in their pocket unless they do need so for work or other activities. My phone habits pretty much over the last 10 years have dictated to me that at the start of the year, I used the S series for 6 months, and then I switched to the Note or the foldables for the second half of the year, or at least until the next S series. But I've always sort of carried a second phone, or sort of had one because I've needed it for work. And I just like also seeing what options are available so that I can communicate that to the people that need to know. But then last year, something changed. The S24 Ultra, I stopped carrying my second foldable alongside it and just brought the S24 Ultra with me anywhere I went. And then when I switched to the Fold 6 and the Fold Special Edition later, I stopped carrying the S24 Ultra alongside it. I just took this with me. But this year's different. Naturally, I switched to the S series because that's just how my cycle goes, but I just can't leave this behind. I have to have this with me. Let's talk about why. Firstly, it's the hardware. Samsung got so much right with how they developed the Fold Special Edition. Even if it was maybe rushed, if this is what they do when they rush, imagine if they have time. They've also had time. It did also get a few things wrong, potentially because of that rushing, but I'll get to that. Also, I'll add that I know there are more advanced foldables out there in terms of its hardware, but even with what they're doing, I still prefer what Samsung do with their foldables. I really like the consistent shape of the Fold Special Edition. Like the curves on each corner are pretty much the same. Some foldables I see, it's curved heavily on this side with the rounded corner, and the other side is very square, and it leaves a bit of sort of frame and bezel around the screen. I just don't like that. I like how this is consistent and it has this sort of really boxy, consistent look about it. I like the slim hinge. It pretty much doesn't protrude out anywhere near as much as what they used to. And the somewhere in between slab and ultra narrow foldable with the cover screen is really appreciated, especially with how much thinner it is this way. What I really love too is this 6.5-inch cover screen is convenient, but in the same sense, it's also just a normal phone. You don't have to sort of sacrifice any sort of usability. Not that narrowness is a sacrifice, it's some ways a benefit, but here I think you get the best of both. You get that narrowness when it's closed, but you also get the room and the space to operate the way a normal phone would. You can, and pretty much will, do everything from this cover screen. As I mentioned, it's thinner. This is 10.6 millimeters versus 12.1 on the Fold 6. Also, it's lighter, only by 3 grams, but you definitely can feel it. And I think a lot of that's down to the thinness as well. But the reason I can't commit to the S25 Ultra isn't because of a 6.5-inch cover screen, because this is, in most ways, worse. Well, in every way. No, most is right because of the narrowness, as I said. It doesn't have the anti-reflective coating, doesn't have a big Quad HD Plus display like the S25 Ultra. The reason why I can't commit is the inner display. All 8 inches of foldy goodness. Any entertainment, any productivity, multitasking, social media browsing, anything you do on there is just infinitely better. And because of that cover screen aspect ratio that I spoke about, the two apps side by side with multitasking give you two pretty much full screen smartphone apps next to each other. Not cramped, not narrow, just roomy enough that you can get stuff done on both. But then there's the added benefit of the fact that Flex Mode just gives you so much more options for entertainment. Because not only do you get the full screen when it's open and sort of have the expansive view, I love it actually when it's across the top. Having videos play across the top, seeing the other options of things I want to watch or the comments down the bottom, that's really beneficial. But then when I'm like in the kitchen cooking, having it in flex mode, and again, that more natural aspect ratio on the top half, I'm getting better content to watch. But it's the convenience of it too, because there's no case I need. I literally can just use what I've got in my hand and take advantage of it. When I've only brought the Ultra into the kitchen sometimes and I choose to watch something, it has to be flat on the bench, and it's just not as nice as an experience compared to this. Now, I did say sort of towards the start that there's things about this that I don't like. And it's not foldable specific, it's Fold Special Edition specific. The lack of S Pen support. I really don't understand it. I mean, I probably do. It was maybe required to remove that digitizer to enable it to be a bit thinner. Next year for the Fold 7, Samsung need to find a way to incorporate it whilst also maintaining the thin profile. It's just too important. The S25 Ultra with the S Pen, I'm constantly signing documents, and now that I'm coaching my son's football team, I've got a habit of every Friday afternoon drawing up a football pitch and writing the formation and the players and where they need to be. It's so handy to have that. Can't do that here. The lack of under-display camera, even though they use the same camera as what they did on the Fold 6. The 4-megapixel camera is the same, but it's not under the display. Again, very confusing move. I also told both of these to TM Rowe when I met him. He saw I was using it, asked me for feedback, and I said, 1, this should have been the Fold 6. 2, it needs to support the S Pen. And 3, why hasn't it got an under-display camera? All things that I mentioned to him. So there. And then we sort of shift away from the things I didn't like and back to what I do like, the cameras. Samsung upped the cameras on the Fold Special Edition. You've got a 200 megapixel main camera, which is largely in part similar to what you'll find on the S25 Ultra and the S24 Ultra before it. It's got a 12 megapixel ultra wide that has dual pixel autofocus, which enables it to support macro capabilities, which I'm a big fan of. And then the camera that needs to go, love to see a 5x telephoto here, is the 3x 10 megapixel camera. Imagine if this had a 5x, because that honestly, with the S25 Ultra, is a game changer to have, especially for capturing sort of football moments of my son. But the cameras on a foldable aren't just about what's back here, it's about how they can be used. The S25 Ultra in terms of video is a massive improvement when it comes to output. You get the log video recording, which I imagine will come here. The ability to capture more detail and more dynamic range is very welcomed. But there's no denying that the convenience of a foldable, I think, makes up for it. Especially if you're just capturing moments of your family or things you're doing together. You can be a part of it because you just set this down on a flat surface, pop it into flex mode, and hit record, and no one gets to miss out. To do that on the S25 Ultra, you need to always be carrying extra accessories, tripod being the main one. Because of the last generation this is carrying, the 8 Gen 3 for Galaxy, you've obviously got performance differences to speak about. But for me, when you consider what a foldable is, that kind of needs to disappear because there will be a new foldable this year with the 8 Elite for Galaxy, and that will make up for that. You've got the obvious advantages to the S25 Ultra. You've got the better, more flexible camera hardware, at least for just point and shoot style. You've got the 8 Elite for Galaxy, which optimizes the cameras but also performance, especially when you consider One UI 7. Not that you won't get One UI 7 here or on the Fold 6 for that matter, it's just that it has been built specifically from the ground up for the S25 Ultra with that chipset. But it's still a traditional smartphone experience. There's nothing transformative about it. Whereas the Fold Special Edition, it literally transforms your entire usage. And for that, I just can't give it up. Here's hoping Samsung blows us away with the Fold 7 later this year, because from what I can see here, they're onto something in terms of the future of it. It's fair to say my expectations are going to be set really high. Hit subscribe for when that happens. But of course, between now and then, there'll be a lot more content, and I'll see you guys in the next one. You.